Dad Lounge is a member of the Lounge Media Group. Hello, everybody, and welcome to part 2 to this episode of Dad Lounge. You listened to part 1. You got the fun part of our topic this week, of our show this week. It was about non-descript music earwigs, and then we went into pets. Funny pet stories, I guess, is kind of the way to go about that one. But then the serious part of this episode this week is the putting down of beloved family pets. And guys, this was and they'll get into it as they go forward for the rest of it. But this one is a pretty good topic, but serious at the same point.
Mm-hmm.
That's it. Nothing.
Yeah, yeah. I'm glad one tradition stayed.
Yeah.
Leaving Sam cold. That's how we do it.
Yeah,
like pace and freezes time.
Yeah, we're hoping it freezes. We're just waiting.
No, there's no freezing to my face. No, but yeah.
No, it's
difficult situation, but at the same time, a good one to talk about.
Yeah, and it's tough on us. It's tough on the kids. It's obviously tough on I'm also worried about my other dog. When it's time, how they react to it too is another thing you got to deal with.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we didn't even bring that up during this part. And
since we're going back to the future, I actually was able to think about that part of it.
Right. But yeah, so there's everybody kind of knows what the topic's going to be when the title is what it is of this episode. So yeah, that's a great point. Is if you've got a second dog or another pet that really relies on that one when that one leaves home, it's hard on them as well. Pets grieve at the same point.
I was going to say, because like you both mentioned, it's never easy. And to Matt's point, Burrow and I's first dog passed away. We lived down the lane from my in-laws. They had a dog, and they got along. It was weird. Their dog was a little bit older than our dog, but they would play. They were like buddies. Yeah. Their dog would lay across the lane, across the electric fence from our dog, and just kind of antagonize it. But
that's about right.
At the same time, they were buddies and they hung out together. And then when Reese had passed away, and Nellie came down and was like kind of like distraught, like couldn't find her, didn't know what to do. And so like to Matt's point there, the reaction of the other dog was kind of sad seeing the whole thing, like, because you don't realize like pets have feelings too, and like they kind of they have those emotions, they have those attachments to each other as well. So that's another potentially difficult situation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So definitely a serious part 2 of this week, but at the same time, definitely I feel it was a really good segment that we did, talking about how things kind of go in that aspect, and great points from you guys on that one. Is we do have a second dog that's here, and she is kind of wondering where Addison is, and that is a real thing. Piper's one of the most upbeat dogs. The past couple of days has been kind of rough on her a little bit. I mean, she's still a happy dog, but at the same time, she's looking for Addison. So yeah, that's definitely something that you take into consideration. So we're loving on her a little bit more than not that we didn't love on her before, but maybe a little bit more than we normally do, just because we know she's going through some stuff too. So, all right, well, that's our opener for this. We just wanted to do a real quick segment to be able for you to get an idea of what's going on with this part of the episode. And thanks again for joining us on Dad Lounge. Enjoy this. Enjoy it as much as possible, I guess. Thank you for listening. Let's say it that way. Thank you for listening.
We hope you like it. We hope you
we hope you'll come back. Yes. We hope you appreciate the part for what it is. And for that, we appreciate you greatly. So thanks so much, and enjoy / listen to part 2, I guess, and we'll see you next time. I mean, I always contest there's a silver lining in every single situation.
But every silver lining does have a touch of gray.
You're such a jerk. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, that's a great actual segue into what the next topic that we have on tap for this episode. This last weekend, the Sprunger family had to put down a family pet, one that had been around. We'd had her since she was a puppy. She would have been 13 years old here in the next week or two. And she was an old dog, one of the best dogs I've ever had. I often kidded around because we got her and her brother at the same time, Clark and Addison. If you I'm a Cubs fan, if you understand where those names come from. I always kidded around that Clark was my favorite, and I'd always tell people, "Don't tell Addison," But Clark died a couple of years ago, about I think 3 years ago, and it was kind of a blessing because Joe at the time, our youngest, really was attached to Clark and Addison. The funny thing about that is when they first started coming in to visit before we adopted the boys, we had Clark and Addison, and we often put them in the laundry room, to keep them running around the house and tearing stuff up and all that fun stuff. They were still kind of young at that point, and we'd get into things, so we'd put them in the laundry room, and then when we got home, we'd let them out so they could go outside and then come back in. Well, Joe was 2 at the time, or almost 2, not even 2. He'd never seen a dog in his life. And we opened up that gate, and they came storming out. He screamed and made us hold him until they went out. The rest of that night, he didn't want anything to do with them. By the end of the weekend, before he went back, he was laying on top of Clark and rubbing Addison's ear. Like that. That's how attached he got to them, and very quickly. And this was about 3 years ago. Right after not right after, I guess. It was a few months after about 10 months after my dad passed. We went to Findlay for something, and little Matt, I almost can guarantee you remember me sending this picture. I sent you a picture of the name of the plaza area in Findlay because it was called the Cervix Plaza.
I remember that.
Big Matt, you know where I'm talking about?
I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah.
And
okay.
It reminds me of Patch Adams.
Yeah.
Every time I
But so I sent you that picture. That was the day that Clark passed away. Well, Joe and Bree met up with a friend of hers, and they were doing something at an event. I was running around doing some returns for whatever reason. I don't even honestly know why. It was in the middle of August. But I had some returns to do, and I ran them. Then I went and picked them up. Well, Joe decided they decided that Joe was going to spend the night with Bree's friend's son. And so with Bree's friend. Well, Joe's job when we got home was always to let the dogs out. Then, that was his job. Well, that then turned on to me. So when I came home, we had 3 dogs at that time: Addison, Clark, and Piper. And I let the dogs out. Only 2 went out. I said, "Clark, let's go." And he was just laying on the floor, and he was gone. So I was so grateful that Joe didn't have to walk into that. So this was his first real interaction with death one-on-one. And this was a real hard one because I had broadcast a basketball game on Friday night, was cleaning up, getting stuff around, and I get a call from my son who was just at the game. It was weird. And so I'm like, well, that's odd. Did he get in an accident or something? So he was just in town, so maybe he got in a fender bender or something. I pick it up, and it's Bree. And she's like, "You need to get home now." I said, "Okay." I said, "What's wrong?" And she said, "Addison's not good." Okay, so we kind of thought maybe it would be coming. She had slowed down a little bit, a lot of things. And I know I'm making this a long story, so I apologize. Uh, but when I get home, I walk in the door and I can hear Joe just wailing. And this is where I'm getting to the point how we handle it with children is, I'm already, this is my dog, and so I'm already kind of like, ugh, I dread that day. The day you bring him home, you still think at some point I'm going to have to see the last day. And so took my shoes off, and Joe come up to me, and he's sobbing and kind of falling apart. And I looked at him. I said, "Look," I said, "Addison doesn't know what she's going through right now." I said, "And if she sees the little boy that is hers falling apart, she may not be able to know. She may get scared." And I said, "We can't let her. We love her enough that we can't let her get scared at what's going on, since she doesn't herself know what's going on." And I said, "You can cry, you can be sad, absolutely do that." I said, "But you can't be wailing and falling apart for her. You've got to be strong for her." And he gathered himself before he went out there, and it was rough. It was a rough hour and 10 minutes before we took her to the vet, and it was, everybody had their chance to come and give her ear rubs and tell her that they loved her. And I kind of want your guys' thoughts. Have you had to do that at this point yet as a parent, and kind of what you guys did for your kids at the same time, if they were around to experience that?
I'll probably let you know here in the near future.
I was gonna say, you have a couple of pretty old dogs,
16 and 14.
Yeah, so you're gonna have that point coming up soon. And are your girls attached to those dogs?
One more than the other, really.
Yeah.
I mean, they're small dogs, so it's just kind of a whole different thing too, because
right.
They're kind of sketchy, and they've been, since Emma's been around, they've been old 12 plus. So
right. So I'm assuming your youngest isn't as attached to them. Yeah. Big Matt, have you had that arise yet?
We have. So we had a black lab, Izzy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if you remember Izzy or not, but
yep.
So we had Izzy, and I think she passed right after we moved into this house, maybe like a year or so after we moved into this house, a year or two, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't that long after we. So the girls were pretty young. I mean, Adela and Stina took it pretty hard, like really hard with that. But the vet was really good about the stuff. So like the vet's a family friend and everything like that. But they were really, really good about like kind of talking to the girls through it, and like they give us a plaque and her name, and we did the whole thing. But I mean, she was like 12 or 13. I mean, when she passed, like we knew it was about that time she became really, really, really lethargic. She wasn't eating, she wasn't drinking, so it was like it was that time. And so I think they knew, so that made it a little bit easier. But we just kind of talked them through it, saying, it's like just going to a better place. They're not going to be in pain,
right?
And all that type of stuff. The hard part is replace, like trying to find the next dog, because like nothing's ever going to replace that initial dog. So like we weren't ready, and the next thing you know, we're like, girl's like, well, hey, I mean, I did a thing. What thing did you do? This is like 7 or 8 months after. So we end up adopting a dog from a shelter. Mm-hmm. It was like this wild dog, like this really not wild, but like very rambunctious, like over the top.
Crazy.
Yeah, like we walked in and like, oh, you're here for that dog? We're like, yeah.
They're like, wow.
Oh, okay, because like they saw the size of Willa, and we're like, oh, okay. But we thought we could tame her, but we couldn't really tame her. And then she got spooked, and something happened. So then Willa got really attached to her, like she was really, really good with Willa, like really calm around a little bit, fired up around everyone else. Like Willa could jump off the couch and drop an elbow on her, and she was fine. But she got spooked by something, so we ended up having to give her to Humane Society to kind of like retrain her and stuff like that. So, but we waited probably another couple years, probably 2 years before we got Teddy. So now we've had Teddy for 2 or 3 years now, and so I think like almost as hard as the death is the finding the next pet that can replace it. As far as that goes, because like nothing's gonna replace that first pet, but then it's like finding the right fit and the right temperament and everything like that. I think is equally as difficult, just from a different perspective.
Well, I'm telling Joe a couple years ago when Clark had passed, like Clark was his buddy. Like they like Clark hated being like laid on, but Joe could use him as a pillow and Clark wouldn't care. Addison, Joe was her boy. Like she would basically adopted him. You know, like she would always keep an eye if somebody was, messing around with him too hard. She wouldn't be aggressive, but she'd raise her head and just watch and make sure nothing was happening to Joe. And but telling him about Clark was very difficult because he wasn't there. You know, we'd already taken him to the vet to have him cremated, and we're going to now that all 4 of my bassets are our bassets. I'll say ours, but are gone. We're going to do a dog garden, and the only one that the boys didn't know Quincy or Wrigley, but at the same time they know about them both. But we're going to start a dog garden where we're going to inter some of the ashes into the soil that way, and we'll try to get a plant of flowers that matches each of the dogs. Kind of, in a way that way we can, memorialize them at the same time. But Joe just like he had to go to Indiana to get his eye for an eye appointment, and Bree said the whole time he just cried very quietly the whole way. And I think it was because he didn't get nobody got a chance with Clark to say goodbye because nobody was home, and that's when he went. This one was a little easier, and it's never easy, but a little easier because everybody got to say, what they felt, and I've had people say, it's just a dog. No, I'm going to call BS on that. When you make it part of your family, those dogs, all of my dogs, I've told people, if you don't like dogs on the couch, don't come to my house because this is their house, not yours. Like I'm very straightforward. This is their house. If they want to be on the couch, they'll get on the couch. Now they're not going to take your seat. I'm not going to let them do that. But they're allowed on the couch. This is where they live.
Unless you're in their seat.
And correct. Yes. Now, if you sat down at where they normally sit, I'm going to have to tell you got to move. But and I don't know if that's me being a jerk. I really don't know. But like literally, it's their house too, I mean, and I always joked around that Addison allowed us to live with her, like this was her house. Yes, we moved, we pay for it, but it's her house. We live here with her. She doesn't live with us. And that's, I think and I tell you what, guys, and and I don't care if you make fun of me about it. The hardest part was this morning when I had to change the Chewy order to only 1 bag every 8 weeks of 40 pounds of dog food rather than 2. I don't know what it was about it, but me doing that kind of signified that I only have 1 dog and I only need 1 bag of dog food every 8 weeks. Yeah. I don't know. Brought tears to my eyes, believe it or not. I'd cried enough. Don't get me wrong. I cried when I had to, carry her into the vet and when they finally took her away and stuff like that. But I'd held it together pretty well after that until I had to change the Chewy order, believe it or not. It's so weird. Excuse me. But what I didn't know, and I'm sorry to get, we went from fun to, oh my gosh, now we're talking about this, but it's part of being a dad, you love having pets, but at the same time, there's always that, that cliche. You love them portion of your life, but they love you for all of theirs, and that's, I mean, when we got Clark and Addison, we picked them up. We went to Dallas, not specifically just for them, but we based our spring break trip to Dallas because they were an hour north of Dallas and we were going to pick them up on the way home. We were gonna surprise Gavin with it because we had to put Wrigley down because he had ruptured a disc in his back, and we had to put him down. And Gavin was really close to Wrigley, so we waited it was only a couple of months. But we knew we wanted a basset hound, and this was when Craigslist was still okay, safe to contact people on.
Was it ever really though?
Well, it was for this, anyways. Let's say it that way, Matt.
there was some real stuff mixed in.
Yeah, right. But we went. We were going to buy Clark, and we were only getting one dog at that point. And we still had Quincy, who was at that point, I think, 13 years old. So he was really old. And we were going to get Clark. We weren't going to call him Clark, but we were going to get Clark. And Bree, like the day before we were going to go pick him up, said, "Why don't you email her and see if she's got any females?" So I did, and she responded back with, "Well, there were only 2 females in the litter, and one of them's already bought, but the other one has an umbilical hernia, and I'm not going to be able to sell her. So if you want her, you're going to have to pay for an umbilical hernia to get fixed. But if you want her, you can have her." Okay, well, we'll be there tomorrow to pick up the dog, and then we'll see about whether we want the female. And when we got there, we get out of the car, and I walk up there, and this little turd of a dog with a triangle on her butt comes and bites my shoe. And I'm like, "This must be the female." And she's like, "Yeah, that's the one." Addison picked us. So we came for one and ended up leaving with 2, and it was just that was the start of Addison as the queen of our home. Even as a little 4-pound dog, no bigger than my forearm, from wrist to elbow crease. That was how big nose to tail she was. She weighed 4 pounds when we got her, and she was one heck of a dog.
That's the size of one of my.
I was going to say that's the size
of my 14-year-old dog.
Which is so funny. We're talking Matt, Big Matt. You've got a big dog, correct?
No. We had a lab. Now we have a mini golden doodle.
Oh, that's right. Sorry, you had a big dog, yes. So you've downsized.
We went from a lab to a mini golden doodle, and I think we went mini golden doodle because I was like, they don't shed. I'm tired of these labs shedding everywhere. So we went this mini golden doodle, and then we got it, and then my wife's like, well, so now we follow them on Facebook. So the algorithm, they're always popping up. She's like, "Oh, should be another." I'm like, "Gee, many Christmas."
I kid you not. Friday, Bree and I were this close, if you're watching on video, half an inch away from driving to Urbana and getting a third dog. And I'm so grateful. Unfortunately, the dog got adopted because we decided the last minute we didn't have enough time and that we would go on Tuesday. Well, the dog got adopted, but if we would have went and got a dog and then we had to go put Addison down that night, I wouldn't have been able to handle it. I think it would have been, but there's a reason why we didn't go get this one. Obviously, that one wasn't meant to be part of our family at that point. I didn't want him going, "Oh my gosh, you're killing him off. I got here. I've been here for 20 minutes. But yeah, Addison was a good dog. I loved her so much. She was definitely a very quiet, but very influential dog in our family.
Yeah, I think that's what they all become part of.
Mm-hmm.
That's the thing. How'd the older boys handle it? Because I know that since they grew up a little bit more, were they a little more understanding, or were they a little bit more torn up?
Ethan, who's the oldest at home right now, 17. First off, the thing is with Addison is she was normal during the day, and when we got home, or when Bree got home from the game, she'd made a mess in the house in the sunroom, which was easily cleaned up. That's not the issue. But then she went outside, and we'd just gotten some snow and stuff, and Addison went outside and laid down in the snow. And that's when Bree was like, there's an issue. So Ethan actually came home to drop Joe off from the game, and Bree had to, which is why she was calling me from his phone, was because Ethan was out in the yard picking her up and bringing her into the house. He's a little bit more outward going with his emotions and stuff. And he went to eat with some friends, and then I called him and I said, we need you to come home. He said he just give him a call and he would come home. And I said, we need you to come home because we had our granddaughter here too, and Bree was giving her a bath and putting her to bed. And I said, as soon as your mom's done with getting Amelia ready for bed and everything, we're gonna go to the vet. And so he was home within 10 minutes. And he came out and spent some time with her. And by the end of it, he was sniffing pretty hard and had some tears. And Adrian, who is our second oldest, our middle kid at home now, but he's very guarded with his emotions. He came out, gave her a couple of pets, said something very quietly, and then he was gone. So I think they both were affected. I personally don't think Adrian's much of a pet person, which is another reason. And that's fine. I'm not asking him to be, I don't expect him to be, one, but he did it in his own way. So it was a little bit more guarded with him, but Ethan was pretty emotional about it as well. Yeah. So it's kind of nice to see our boys, be not. I'm not saying this right, but yet show some emotion, because that means that family means something to them, and those animals, even though they're just animals, they are part of your family, and they understand that too. And they didn't make fun of Joe for falling apart like he did. They understood, and that was another nice thing that we saw. But
yeah, so I'm like wondering when Teddy goes, what's going to happen with our girls, because I don't know. I mean, obviously you don't know when it's going to happen, but I mean, I don't know. Like, the girls are going to be a little bit. Willow will still be at home, I'm assuming, and that'll be like the first we've had from day one through. So, what's
the age range for life expectancy of golden, like a mini golden?
I haven't looked. I think it was like 12 to 15 when I initially looked. I don't know off the top of my head.
Yeah. And so the only reason I ask is 9 to 12 years is a basset's lifespan, kind of their age range, and Quincy lasted to be 16, which he broke the bank on it. But then Wrigley was 7, Clark made it to 9, and Addison made it to almost 13. I just didn't know how much long. Was Teddy a puppy when you got him?
Yeah, the people we buy them from, or the group we buy them from, they don't send them home. They like to housebreak them as much as they can initially, to make it A, easier for you, and B, to kind of, because they're small dogs.
Right.
So I think we got him when he was 3 or 4 months old, maybe.
Okay.
They get like most people keep them like 6 weeks and they say, here, the dog, but they like kind of train them, and they kind of do it the right way. Plus, like, the cost of certain types of dogs are a little bit more than like I'm not saying a lap's cheap, but there's other dogs that, I mean, there's certain dogs that are super expensive.
Well, Matt's got one, but little Matt's got one that is he got given to him, but is like a $4,000 dog.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was 16 years ago.
Yeah, that was 16 years ago. That was a $4,000 dog. Yeah, it's.
I
have the receipt, but I didn't pay the amount.
This says 10 to 16 years old.
Okay.
Or 12 to 15, as there's. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm betting.
Sam knows I impressed somebody with having the same dog they did.
When this was the 500 section lounge, we had a guest who was very. She'd actually developed a travel kennel for a dog that you can place under your seat.
The Sherpa.
Yeah, the Sherpa. So if it's a small enough dog, you can have it right under your seat with you. And she's got describing this very exquisitely expensive dog, and Matt just picks his up and puts it in front of the camera. And she's like,
here's Bear.
Oh, you have one? And he's like, yeah, he's right here. But Big Matt, I'm betting what the people that you get, the group that you get that got that dog from, though, is the retention rate is probably like people keeping the dog rather than, man,
Yes.
they're just impossible to housebreak or what. They're already housebroken. You ain't got to worry about that by the time you bring them
Well, they
home.
say their house, but I mean, you still got to do the whole.
Yeah.
No,
it's
yeah.
a new, it's
stuff.
it's a new housebreaking.
Correct, but they know the concept of going out.
Yes.
They know that type of thing, so you don't have to build it from square one all the way up. You've got them a good foundation already.
Yes, and they've done it for years. So and like they, I don't know. We went there, and the see, the funny thing is the dad's the mini poodle and the mom's the the golden retriever. So
that little ladder
there's our stud right there, and it's like the thing, just a mini poodle. This little thing.
There's our
The
stud.
mom's over here. The mom's
He's walking around like this. That's right. I did.
Yeah, there's a little mini poodle standing next to a little step ladder.
What the heck? He's like, that's our stud. Look at him. Look how muscular he is. I mean, he's like 3 pounds.
Oh, that's funny. But yeah, I know, like I said, that we took it to a kind of a downer note, but this is, some things that little Matt, you're gonna have to, like you said, probably do this in the next year, probably. I'm not trying to put an end.
No,
on
it's
one of your dogs,
it's one of those. He can still go up and down the stairs, but he's lost a lot of weight.
Yeah. And it does not make it any easier, even though it's coming. You know what I mean? It definitely doesn't. But it's just something that is, as a dad, no matter what kind of children you have, as a dad, it's something that weighs on you of how do you handle this, or how have you handled it? Did you handle it the right way? I mean, I don't know that there's a right or wrong way, other than there's definitely a wrong way.
There's a wrong way, I guarantee you.
There's definitely a wrong way, but you know what I mean.
Yes.
When you're trying to be compassionate, I don't know that there's a wrong way. You know what I mean? That's what I'm getting at on that one. Is if it's coming from a place of compassion, I don't know that there's necessarily an extremely wrong way, but it's definitely it's not a fun time, and it's not something that you look forward to, even though when you get that dog, Matt, when you get that dog, it's going to happen. You know what I mean? Definitely a couple of a topic that is very important, but at the same time, we like to have the fun too. So thank you, gentlemen, for doing that, and thank you for entertaining me on my long, drawn-out story on how we handle death of a beloved pet, because they are some good valued family members, definitely, and I know you guys have that same thing. And I know Lance, if he were here, he'd probably have some good stories on that too, as well. But thanks, guys. Appreciate you, everybody listening. Thank you so much. We really do enjoy doing the Dad Lounge show for you. We really do. We're just dads trying to get along in this crazy mixed up world. But no, being dads and being role models for our children, and kind of guiding them in those life events that aren't always the most comfortable. So thanks so much for joining us this week, and we will see you next time.